Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Welcome one, welcome all. It's time for another exciting edition of The Show with No Name. And hold on to your hats, because it's
10,
time
9,
for
8,
liftoff.
7, 6,
Come on.
5, 4, 3,
Countdown
2,
with me, folks.
1,
We've
0.
got this.
Ignition.
Come on.
Liftoff.
Yes.
Liftoff. 30 minutes after the hour.
Come on. Here we go.
Get ready. Hold on to your hats. Strap on your seatbelt. Fasten your seatbelts. Hold on to your hats. Get ready for the ride of your life. The show with no name time. On Vaughn Radio. It's the show with no name. On Vaughn Radio. It's the show. Let's go.
Welcome, welcome, folks. Welcome aboard. Yeah, we're almost there, folks. Another week flying by right before our very eyes. We've got so much to do today, my amigos. We're going to play. We're going to laugh. And most important, we're going to learn some English. With our amigos, our show with no namers. And you've got amazing programs all afternoon long. Here, all afternoon, morning, evening, and night, I should say. 24/7, 365. You've got Vaughn Radio, baby. And this, right here, this is probably one of the wackiest shows. Well, this and the Probo show. And maybe the salad, too. I mean, anybody who's ever spoken to Dave Boyce, Rob Grams, or myself, you guys will know we are nutty, wacky guys, chiflados. But I think that makes everything a little more exciting in life. Wouldn't you agree? Welcome to the Wacky Variety Show, the show with no name, on Vaughn Radio. And this is a program where you participate, my friends. And one of my favorite sections is Question of the Week.
Question of the week.
Question of the week, amigos. You still have time. Tomorrow we do question of the week. We're going to hear from you, our show with no namers. And as you know, sometimes we like to keep it real positive. Who's your role model? You know, what is one piece of advice that you'll never forget? And I love all that stuff as much as the next guy. I've got to be honest. Of course I do. It makes you feel all warm inside, right? But sometimes we got to talk about the good, the bad, and the shh. So, this week, I want you to whine. Quejarte. Quejiquearte, I think. I want you to complain. I want you to tell me your biggest complaint about your job. Oh, and please, don't be one of those people who says, yob. It's not yob. A yob es un gamberro. A yob usually doesn't have a job. As you know, folks, we're always playing with words here on the show with no name. Having a great time. And we learn from music, we learn from movies, and by challenging you guys. And now, thanks to voice notes and the fact that we can send audio files really easily, we can hear from you every week. So if you haven't participated yet, and some of you have, some of you haven't, I get it. I'm as busy as the next guy. But if you get a chance, it's an opportunity for you to speak every week. Every week, you can practice your English aloud. You can express your opinion. Always start by introducing yourself. I think that's one of the most important things. Even if you've done it a million times, hey, it's blah, blah, blah. It only takes a second. And this way, we don't assume anybody knows you by your voice, right? So let us know, what is your biggest complaint? Your biggest gripe? Do you know this word? A gripe. Well, si lo ves escrito, dirás gripe. But it is gripe. A gripe is another way to say a complaint. So what is your biggest gripe, your biggest complaint about your current job? And maybe you're a yob and you don't have a job. Well, at least you don't pronounce them the same anymore. Folks, you still have time to participate. If you'd love to do it, we'd love to hear from you, and I can help you. As always, I can give you some tweaks. Tweaks es unos ajustes. All right, amigos, that's question of the week. But right now, it's time for our pop quiz. Come on, come on. Pop quiz. Pop quiz. Sing it, folks. It's almost Friday. Come on. Pop quiz. Yeah. Yeah. Hands up. Let's go. Let's go. Pop quiz. Pop quiz. Pop quiz. Pop quiz. Pop quiz. ¿Conoces Weekend Town? La nueva iniciativa de Vaughan.
Pues no.
Es un fin de semana de inmersión en inglés. Y es nuevísimo.
A ver, cuéntame más.
Tendrás una inmersión lingüística total durante 2 días. Un total de 24 horas hablando con angloparlantes de todo el mundo.
¡Wow! ¡Qué interesante!
Ganarás confianza y soltura a la hora de comunicarte en inglés. Mejorarás tu comprensión auditiva y tus habilidades conversacionales en una situación de comunicación real en inglés. Ven a Weekend Town y te sorprenderás con todo lo que puede avanzar tu inglés en un fin de semana. Weekend Town de Vaughan. Un fin de semana de inmersión en inglés. You can get more information about Weekend Town over at grupovon.com/cursos destacados. All right, in today's pop quiz, we're going to be listening to some audio from Essential English. And today we're going to learn about something that most people don't like, but it's a necessary evil. That means something we must do. And I'll tell you what, I do know a few people, a handful of people, un puñado, you say, un puñado, a handful of people that actually like doing chores. They like cleaning up or tidying up, however you'd like to say it, to clean up or to tidy up. Whatever you want to call it, it's still a chore, un deber. So, folks, let's give this a listen, and then I'll have some homework for you. So we're going to listen to a chapter on housework, and then you'll have some homework.
Pista 10.
Housework.
Hacer las tareas domésticas.
To do the housework.
Fregar los platos.
To do the washing up. Dishes.
Pasar la aspiradora.
To do the hoovering.
Quitar el polvo.
To do the dusting.
Planchar.
To do the ironing.
Hacer la colada.
To do the laundry.
Sacar la basura.
To take out the rubbish. Trash.
recoger, ordenar,
To tidy up.
limpiar,
To clean up.
desorden, desastre.
Mess.
Bye, Dad. See you later.
Wait a minute. Where do you think you're going?
I'm meeting my friends in the park.
You're not going anywhere. First, you have to tidy up your room.
But, Dad.
No buts. You can meet up with your friends after tidying up your room. And don't forget to air out that pigsty of yours.
Okay, fine.
But don't just make your bed. Tidy up your room properly and do the dusting.
I know.
Don't forget to do the hoovering.
Yes, the hoovering. Anything else you want me to do?
Actually, could you take out the rubbish when you go out?
Okay.
Translation time.
1. Hago las tareas domésticas el fin de semana.
I do the housework at the weekend.
2. Hago la cama todos los días.
I make my bed every day.
3. No paso la aspiradora todos los días.
I don't do the hoovering every day.
4. Mi marido plancha una vez a la semana.
My husband does the ironing once a week.
5. Mi mujer hace la colada 2 veces a la semana.
My wife does the laundry twice a week.
6. Quito el polvo 3 veces al mes.
I do the dusting 3 times a month.
7. ¿Podrías fregar los platos?
Could you do the washing up?
8. Él puede salir después de recoger su habitación.
He can go out after tidying up his room.
9. Puede salir después de limpiar este desastre.
You can go out after cleaning up this mess.
10. Puedo sacar la basura después de fregar los platos.
I can take out the rubbish after doing the dishes. Practice time.
Forma las frases con el vocabulario, primero en imperativo con
Please,
y después empleando
could you
1. Quitar el polvo.
please do the dusting? Could you do the dusting?
2. Planchar.
Please do the ironing. Could you do the ironing?
3. Recoger el salón.
Please tidy up the living room. Could you tidy up the living room?
4. Hacer la cama.
Please make the bed. Could you make the bed?
5. Pasar la aspiradora.
Please do the hoovering. Could you do the hoovering?
Ahora forma frases del tipo
You can go out after.
seguido de gerundio. Puedes salir después de 6.
You do the dishes. You can go out after doing the dishes.
7.
He clean up this mess. He can go out after cleaning up this mess.
8.
She do the hoovering. She can go out after doing the hoovering.
9.
They tidy up their rooms. They can go out after tidying up their rooms.
10.
You make your bed. You can go out after making your bed.
Aplica lo aprendido en otras situaciones. 1. ¿Me podrías llevar al aeropuerto?
Could you take me to the airport?
2. ¿Me podrías dar más información?
Could you give me more information?
3. ¿Me podrías mandar el documento?
Could you send me the document?
4. ¿Te puedo ayudar después de llamar a mi cliente?
I can help you after calling my client.
5. Puedo hacerlo después de ir al supermercado.
I can do it after going to the supermarket.
All right, there you go, folks. Chock full of vocabulary, great structures that you should know. I hope you were repeating them along with Carmen and Tosh Pascua. That's from Essential English, el inglés imprescindible para situaciones cotidianas. It's just one of the many amazing materials you can get at the Von Tienda. And as you know, they all come with audio. This book comes with over 3 hours of audio. So let's see what you guys were able to extract from there. Let's go over a few things, and then I'll give you guys your challenge. A couple words that come to mind. Roof. When we talk about a house, we talk about a roof over our heads. Also, it reminds me of something that you would always hear from like that sitcom dad. Hey, I put a roof over your head. Pongo techo sobre tu cabeza. So roof isn't just a physical part of the house. Also, when we talk about the roof, we can talk about the roof of our mouth as well. Again, we can look at words as one-dimensional things, or we could look at them as ideas that we can build upon. Then you've got the ceiling. Don't mix up the roof and the ceiling, right? The roof is outside. The ceiling is inside. Then you've got your yard. You say patio, right? We say the front yard or the backyard. You've got the living room, bathrooms, bedrooms, kitchen, right? These are just some of the rooms. Basement, attic, buhardilla. Remember, you've also got this, you've got it in Essential English. Also, I'm getting these words right now from my first book, English Everywhere. There's a chapter that's at home. And that reminds me of the expression, make yourself at home. Como si estuvieras en casa. Make yourself at home. What about sírvete tú mismo? Help yourself. Help yourself. Please, please. What about this one? Hogar, dulce hogar. Come on, it's the same. Home, sweet home. It's actually a cool song by Motley Crue as well. And I'm going to give you one more, and then I want 3 that I want you to give me. And this one, let's see if you know it. It's a famous line from a movie. That movie is The Wizard of Oz. We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Well, what does Dorothy say? There's a very famous scene when she clicks her heels together. Remember, she's wearing these shiny ruby slippers, and she clicks her heels together 3 times. And she says, como en casa, ningún sitio. Do you know how we say that, both in real life as an idiom and in this classic movie? There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. It's almost like Beetlejuice. You have to say it 3 times. All right, so here we go, my amigos. The first one you have to give me is limpiar en pocilga. So I know how you can link them together. En mi casa está hecha una pocilga, tengo que limpiar, organizar. Right? There, I can give me your own example if you like. But the idea is when you want to say something is a complete and utter mess, right? We say the word messy. That's another word you heard in the audio. So when something is not messy, lo siguiente, as you say, está patas arriba. You say pocilga. Well, we say the same thing. So you can give me how we said what you heard it many times. Voy a limpiar. Voy a limpiar. Okay? En general. Because I've had people say, I'm going to wash. We don't say that. It's not wash. And, well, I'll be quiet. I'll give you guys the chance to answer that one. And then I'll explain the differences, the nuances. Los matices. All right? You have to use limpiar, organizar, and you have to use the word pocilga in the first example. Okay, the second one, you have to translate this, but I want you to translate it as is, tal como está. There's a reason for it, okay? The first one, I'm giving you carte blanche. Haz lo que quieras. The second one, ¿te importaría cuidar de la casa la semana que viene mientras estamos fuera? So, ¿te importaría cuidar de la casa la semana que viene mientras estamos fuera? That's number 2. And the third challenge in today's pop quiz, la cena está lista, preparada, servida, a comer. But I don't want you to say, let's eat. Why? You know what I'm looking for? I'm looking for a totally native there, amigos. So there you go. Those are your translations. And in the meantime, we're going to take a look at today's Say What soundbite. Come on. Say what? What? All right, amigos. This is your Say What soundbite, just to save some time here while you guys are giving me your best renditions of today's pop quiz. I'm going to give you your Say What soundbite. As always, you're going to hear this clip 4 times. You will have 4 chances to write down what you hear. This is one of the funniest people alive. Okay? I'll tell you that right now. And I know, Rob Grams, if you're listening, you'll agree. And you'll recognize this voice in a moment. You guys know we love our movies and music over here. Chris Valrol, all of you. You love music and movies. Well, Rob Grams as well. And you can catch Rob Grams on the Probo show every morning. And you can catch him at lunchtime with his best bud, Andrea Vaughn. All right, amigos, is everybody ready? I'm going to give you the Say What soundbite, and then we'll see what you guys heard. Remember, you have 2 jobs here. Initially, your first job is just to listen carefully, try and make some sense of it, and then relay the information back to me. And to relay is to tell it, to retell it, relay it. I forgot how you said it in Spanish. To relay, contar. I think me estoy complicando. You say relay porque I know it's a place where they sell news, a newsstand, una prensa. But to relay information, transmitir, pasar. So you have to relay the information back to me in your best English. I think this one's going to be pretty easy, so hopefully a few people will be able to figure it out. Is everybody ready? Here's your Say What soundbite for the first time.
We are dumb. We're a dumb species. We're so dumb. Mankind didn't even invent the sandwich until the 18th century. That's how dumb we are as a species. I mean, literally thousands of years of people going, there's got to be a better way, you know.
All right, folks. So, Rob Grams, if you're listening, send me a what's up, and we'll confirm it here on the show. You recognize the voice? It's definitely one of the funniest people, IMO, in my opinion. But I know there are many people who agree, because this guy, he's one of those people that even before he opens his mouth, just looking at him, the look on his face, I mean, he cracks you up. And hopefully you'll know who I'm talking about. And if not, always remember, that's not the important part. The important part is not who is speaking, it's what they're saying. And if you can tell me in your best English, well, then we'd love to hear from you after this quick commercial break, amigos. We're also going to take a look at our pop quiz answers. A lot of people participating here live, which is awesome. Great to have you here with us, amigos. Don't forget to participate in the question of the week as well. Your biggest gripe, your biggest complaint about your current job. And if you're worried that your boss is listening, well, change your name. or change the name of your company. Or you can try and change your voice. Hey, trying to speak in English and express your opinion is enough. All right, well, folks, we'll be right back with much more Show with No Name. So, say it with me. Stick around. Hey, amigos. Welcome back. Welcome back to part 2 of today's Show with No Name on Vaughn Radio. Thank you so much to all of our students who participate every day, week after week, day after day, month after month. And I know it. I mean, I see it. I know you can see it. I know you can feel it. We're getting results, aren't we? I know it. Every Friday, I am impressed. You know, seriously, and it's everybody. It's not just one of you where I'm like, oh, wow, Chris is really doing a great job. You know, not anybody else. No, you all stand out. Todos destacáis in an atmosphere where it's hard to stand out because the bar is really high. Okay? El listón está muy alto. So I can only say 3 letters. K-I-U. Q. Q. No. Well, does anyone know what K-I-U stands for? Keep it up. Keep it up, amigos. All right, let's kick off with a challenge. A challenge we call Homophones on the Show with No Name. Homophones on no name. It's homophones time, cause homophones rhyme. They sound the same on the Show with No Name. The Show with No Name. Homophones on the Show with No Name. Cause homophones time, cause homophones rhyme. They sound the same on the Show with No Name. 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 That's right, amigos. Homophones only on the Show with No Name. All right, let's take a look at our 2 words here. The first word, if you were listening, it was in the audio. It was in the audio that we listened to from Essential English, where we learned a little bit about housework. And we're going to take a look at your answers momentarily. But first, let me give you our homophones. As I said, we're always trying to buy some time here. So we've got a couple fronts open. That's one of the reasons this class is not for beginners. This is a fast-paced English class. Why? I know no other way to do it, my amigos. I can't talk slow. It just doesn't work. All right, so the first word is a kind of metal. Hierro in Spanish. Hierro. Okay? It's also something we use when we want to remove the wrinkles from our clothes. There's another usage of it. It's also the verb we use when we want to remove wrinkles from our clothes. So, I'm sure you're familiar with the word. There's even a Marvel superhero, Tony Stark, and well, now I know how you pronounce it in Spanish, but I'm asking you for the English pronunciation. All right, so the first one's pretty easy. Okay, the second one is yo gano. So, si tú dirías yo gano respeto, yo gano dinero, no ganar win, sino el otro, okay? Ganártelo por mérito, okay? If you said those, vamos a decir que tú digas yo gano dinero en hierro. Would yo gano and hierro sound the same? I can hear you guys biting your fingernails on the other side. I know it's not possible, but I could swear I can feel you guys biting your fingernails. All right, well, we'll take a look at that in just a moment. Let me give you the say what soundbite for the second time. Is everybody ready? Okay, jot this down.
We are dumb. We're a dumb species. We're so dumb. Mankind didn't even invent the sandwich until the 18th century. That's how dumb we are as a species. I mean, literally thousands of years of people going, there's got to be a better way, you know.
Hey, Damian, what's crack-a-lackin', buddy?
Hey, Alberto, I was planning to do some sports this week. What about playing baseball?
Ooh, baseball. I love it. But I'm not sure yet. Can we touch base next week?
Touch base. Estamos en contacto, ¿no? Hablamos en algún momento. Yeah, okay. Let's touch base. Okay, what about basketball? Do you want to play basketball?
Oh, man, I love basketball. It's one of my favorite sports. But I don't know if I can this weekend because I've already got plans. Oh, man, that's the way the ball bounces.
That's the way the ball bounces. Así están las cosas, ¿no? Así bota la pelota. Así bota la pelota. That's the way the ball bounces. I love that expression. Okay, what about tennis? Do you want to play tennis?
Well, I love tennis, but I'm not really a good player. If you don't mind playing with a novice, the ball's in your court, buddy.
La bola está en mi campo, ¿eh? La pelota está en mi tejado. All right. Do you want to play some soccer?
Sure, I'd love to play some soccer or football, as you call it. What time do we kick off?
Perfect. We're kicking off at 9. Are you available?
Sure, but I might have to play some golf before with some friends. It's par for the course.
It's par for the course. Es lo normal, ¿no? Es lo normalito, lo que se hace.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what about billiards? Do you like playing billiards?
Yeah, but right now I'm behind the 8 ball.
I'm behind the 8 ball. Estás detrás de la bola 8, como que llevas las de perder.
Yeah, wow, a lot of idiomatic expressions here.
Muy buenas expresiones. Si es que así da gusto aprender inglés con un profe como Alberto y un poquito de creatividad, tienes This Book is the Shit. El mejor libro para aprender inglés que te has echado a la cara in your life. Píllatelo, vas a disfrutar mogollón de dibujos para que lo aprendas todo fácil, con conexiones lógicas y divertidas. Es la manera más sencilla y más divertida de aprender inglés. No te la pierdas.
Damian, you're such a good sport. Te enrollas. You can pick up your copy of This Book is the Shit at
Vaughantienda.com.
It's the shit. All right. That's right. If you don't have my latest book, I don't know what you're waiting for. It came out over a year ago, and it is a hit. Everybody who's got their hands on a copy says they are enjoying it. So thank you to all of you. Seriously, hey. There are so many amazing materials out there. I know it because just at the Von Tienda, you've got a wealth of different materials. So just the fact that you choose mine just makes me so happy. I'm thrilled to the gills, to use an idiomatic expression. All right, let's take a look. I'm also thrilled to the gills by how you guys did on our homophone section. Now, this is a trick question here, because you can't be wrong in this one. Why? Well, I would say iron the same way as iron. Iron money, iron my clothes. Iron, iron. So watch. Iron money when I iron my clothes. Iron. However, if you listen to our friend Tash Pasqua, who speaks English, but from another part of the globe, literally another time, a world away, if you would say, in the land down under, in Australia, she said iron. She said the R. In American English, especially in my area, which is the Northeast, we say iron, iron money, and iron clothes, iron. So interesting word there. Now, remember, some people say too, iron, because they don't pronounce the R. Many British people say iron money. When I bought an iron, I'm going to iron my clothes. So everybody's right. Wow. Don't you wish it was that way every week? All right, let's take a look. I know you don't want to do it, folks, but we've got to take a look at our household chores. Yeah, we've got to do some dusting. We've got to wash the dishes, or as the British say, do the washing up. You've got to do the laundry. Don't forget, some days at my house, there are 3 of us, somos tres, and some days we do 3 loads of laundry. I'm serious. 3 loads of laundry. Oh, well, think about it. Sheets. You got, once you got to do sheets, forget it. That throws everything off, right? So, my amigos, household chores. Nobody likes them, but does anybody want to live in a pigsty? And that was our word, pocilgas, a pigsty. Now, I can't tell you how many times my mother said that word in reference to my room or my playroom. My parents redid the basement and they turned it into a playroom. And she would say, Alberto, clean up. This is a pigsty. You've got to clean up. Now, many of you also put tidy up. Great. It's just a little more British. We understand them. And in fact, my daughter went to a British nursery school, and we always laugh at how they sang the song. So you can imagine my daughter Lara and I, everybody tidy up, tidy up, tidy up. Everybody tidy up, my fair lady. Yeah, I don't sing it like that. And Americans normally say clean up. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to clean the house. You can say it. But normally, organizar, limpiar, to clean up, right? You've got to clean up your car. Now, if I tell you you've got to wash your car, usually the difference is wash something with soap, right? You wash your car, you wash the dishes, you clean up the house. Because that, you do a lot of different things there. It includes a lot of different chores. I know what you're thinking. Tell me about it. So this place is a pigsty. You've got to clean it up at once. All right. The next one. ¿Te importaría cuidar de la casa la semana que viene mientras estamos fuera? Would you mind house sitting? Now, a couple things here. First, the word to house sit. Does it sound familiar? Well, what if I tell you to watch my daughter? Then I'm going to ask you if you can babysit for me. And what if I ask you to watch my cat while I'm away, to keep an eye on my cat? Well, then you're going to be doing some cat sitting. And a dog, I think you get the picture, right? So if somebody's keeping an eye on your house, your goldfish, whatever, well, they are house sitting. It's a great one because you already know babysitting, babysitter. So some people in New York, they're house sitters. They literally go to people's houses. They make sure the plants are watered, all that jazz. Make sure everything is A-OK. And the other thing I wanted to point out, a lot of people make mistakes there. Say, would you mind to? ¿Te importaría hacer? Pero en inglés es would you mind más el gerundio. Así que apúntalo y pon unas cosas que dirías. It's a very polite way to say, could you? Would you mind helping me out? Would you mind explaining it in further detail? Would you mind taking a breath? ¿Te importaría tomar una respiración? So the full answer, would you mind house sitting next week while we are away? Careful with this one too. I've had a lot of students say, my boss is out this week. You can say out, but normally si está por ahí, we would say away. If you say out, I would think that the person's coming back to the office soon. Is Mr. Jones here? Oh, no, he's out. Oh, okay, I'll wait. Oh, he's away. So away es fuera que quiere decir más, que no va a estar aquí, not anytime soon. It implies a longer duration and maybe even a bigger distance away. So just careful with that one. Would you mind? Siempre con el gerundio. And the last one, la cena está lista a comer. Dinner is ready. Dinner is served. Dig in. Yeah, we use the verb cavar. Dig in. Another way to say it is chow down. Guys, let's dig in. Let's chow down. Excellent job, everybody. Wonderful job. Oh, yeah. Seriously. All right, well, we've got so much to do, my amigos. So we are going to move on right now to our spelling bee.
Spelling bee. Spelling bee. Spelling bee. Spelling bee. Spelling bee.
All right, amigos. All right. It is time for our spelling bee here on the show with No Name. And as always, this is where we look at some spelling. And why do we do this? Well, several reasons. Remember, I may seem like I'm mad, and I am. No enfadado, loco. Well, it means both things. And I am mad, but there is a method to my madness. There's always a reason behind everything I do. And in this case, we're practicing taking dictation. We're practicing also our letters and spelling, because one of the things that really, really shocked me the most when I came here and when I started teaching, one of the things that shocked me the most was how people had so much difficulty spelling. So if I spelt a simple word for them, they would, oh no. And I said, oh man. So I found kind of an Achilles heel. Now you'll notice that, students, if you participate in this section week after week, day after day, you are going to be on the high end of, at least here in Spain, of people who are able to spell and to be able to write things down that are spelled for them. And we don't do numbers here often, but we should do them a little more often. All right, folks, round one in our spelling bee. Now, remember this. Today, you do not have to capitalize the first letter of every word. We usually have to do it, but today you don't have to. Is everybody ready? Here is round one of today's spelling bee. I am gonna fly through it. So hold on to your hats. The first one is AMPERSAND. The second one is HASHTAG. The third one is ANARCHY. The fourth one is SWASTIKA. The fifth one is YIN-YANG. And the last one is INFINITY. Do you know about Vaughn groups? Well, I'm going to tell you all about them. They are group English classes that you can do via video conference or in person. And the good news is you can start whenever you want. and you can keep the same timetable, teacher, and classmates throughout the whole course. And the best part, there's no strings attached. Sin compromiso. And if you act now, you can get a 5% discount for paying up front. And if you stick with the course for 6 months, you'll get a 50% discount in June. Wow, what a deal! As if you needed more reasons to learn English with Vaughn. Check out our Vaughn groups. Have fun and make friends as you learn English. Sign up now while there are still spots available. Call us 911-385831, or you can go to our website, grupovon.com. And don't forget to follow us on social media and find out if Vaughn groups are for you. More information about Vaughn groups. You've also got our weekend town. You've got our urban camps, summer camps for all ages. Remember, don't put it off. If you're thinking about sending the kids or even doing something yourself, sign up. Because as you know, summer's a really busy time. It's when people have a little more free time and when they're more prone to, propensos a, signing up for English courses. So in the summer, when a lot of people are taking it easy, we are working our tails off over at Vaughn to make sure you guys get through the summer learning English. So when you go back in September, people don't even recognize you. They say, "Who is this guy? Oh my goodness, he sounds great. He's not going to be working with us for too long over here. He's going to go to a huge international company and run the place." Hey, that's one of the first things you need. One of the first prerequisites is languages. And you guys seem to have that pretty under control. And remember this, the better you are at one language, the better you are at another languages, or at another language, I should say. What I'm getting at is it's easier to learn languages once you've got a language or two under your belt. And that expression I learned recently in Spanish, en tu haber. Okay, haber. Yeah, I always mix those up too. Haber, haber, haber. Oh, the Spanish Haber versus haber, A-V-E-R. Oh, man. Oh, man. It can be quite confusing. All right, let's see if anybody got these words on the first go. Going once, going twice. I don't see anybody. Oh, I think I know what happened. Well, one of these symbols, I've just told you what today's topic is. Today, we're going to take a look at some symbols in our spelling bee. No, not symbols, platillos, aunque se pronuncia igual, símbolos, symbols. And while some of the symbols that I've chosen today are parts of speech, some of them are propaganda. Some of them, well, when you see that symbol, you can only think of horror and devastation and really bad things. But what I did is I Googled the world's most recognized symbols, los símbolos más reconocidos en el mundo. And this is the list I gave me. But number 4, I get it. As I said, it was part of a propaganda machine. Oh, and by the way, folks, if you haven't heard that, pretty recently there was an FYI episode on propaganda. Very interesting episode, because a lot of times we think about propaganda now as something from the past. But what I realize, and in every episode of FYI, I come to some kind of realization. And in the propaganda episode, all I have to say is move over Goebbels. Échate para un lado, Goebbels, because I think we're being exposed to more propaganda now than ever before. Just think about it. The Nazis, they had what? One radio station, one TV station? Here, we can get it from every angle through our phones. So, we've never been more susceptible to it. All right, let's try it again here. This is round 2 of today's Spelling Bee on symbols, some of the most common symbols in the world. Let's see if you can get them. I'll slow it down. The first one is AMP, ERSAND. The second one is HASHTAG. The third one is ANARCHY. The fourth one is SWASTIKA. That's the one that's going to give us problems. And the fifth one, YIN-YANG. And the last one, INFINITY. Those are your Spelling Bee words, round 2. Some of the most common symbols in the world. And the reason I chose common symbols today was because today in 1958, the symbol we know as the peace symbol was displayed in public for the first time. And this was in London. But we'll take a look at the peace symbol and other not so peaceful symbols after this commercial break. We've also got movies, music, Say What Soundbite, Double Trouble, and so much more. So, say it with me. Stick around. Hey, amigos, welcome back. Welcome back to part 3 of today's show with no name. And I've got a little surprise for you today. Hey, why not? You deserve it. Os lo mereces. Well, aside from all the amazing programs you've got on Vaughn Radio today, you've also got a little surprise coming from your buddy, Double A. Double A. Special Agent Double A. Alberto Alonso. All right. But you got to stay tuned for the special surprise. Also, stay tuned for Ximena Holiday and Test Your English. She's up next with Nacho, laughing and enjoying life, folks. Then you've got Rob and Andy in the Lunchtime Show. Then Ruby in Speak Up, followed by Let's Get Random with Jules Linares. The Salad with Dave Boyce. Kyle Miller's Drive Time. Chris Frank and Frankly Speaking. The Pro Bow Show with Rob Grams. Richard Vaughn Live. And right before this show, you've got No Excuses with Fitz. And all of us share one thing in common. We love what we do, folks. It's a calling, una vocación. And we love our students. And that's a lot of love. And you can join us. All you have to do is download our free Vaughn Radio app, and you can participate. All right, time for a little participation in Double Trouble. Double Trouble, baby. It is. Give it up. Double
Double trouble. I said double. Double trouble. Double. Double trouble. I said double. Double trouble.
All right, amigos, here's your double trouble for today. We'll see if you guys can figure it out. I think it's going to be a little bit tough, to be honest, but I have a feeling somebody's going to get it. And by the way, congrats to everybody who got our spelling bee. We're going to take a look at the answers to our spelling bee in just a moment, but let me give you the double trouble. You have to use the same word twice. And here we go. No estés enojado. No te preocupes por eso hasta que pase. Okay, es una frase hecha ahí. Por eso no me ha salido tan bonito en español. Okay, so, no estés enojado. No te preocupes por algo hasta que pase. So, no te estreses, no te antestreses, si me entiendes, aunque me lo acabo de inventar. So you've got to use the same word twice. No estés enojado. Y no te preocupes por algo hasta que pase. That's your double trouble. You have to use the same word twice. Also, folks, I'm going to give you your Say What soundbite now. Here it is for the third time.
We are dumb. We're a dumb species. We're so dumb. Mankind didn't even invent the sandwich until the 18th century. That's how dumb we are as a species. I mean, literally thousands of years of people going, there's got to be a better way, you know.
Come on, folks. I think this one is pretty easy, especially compared to some of the level we've got over here. Because, I mean, we've done Liam Gallagher. Enough said. We've done Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols. We've done Ozzy Osbourne, so you can definitely get today's Say What soundbite. Here it is for the fourth and final time.
We are dumb. We're a dumb species. We're so dumb. Mankind didn't even invent the sandwich until the 18th century. That's how dumb we are as a species. I mean, literally thousands of years of people going, there's got to be a better way, you know.
¿Conoces Weekend Town? La nueva iniciativa de Vaughan.
Pues no.
Es un fin de semana de inmersión en inglés. Y es nuevísimo.
A ver, cuéntame más.
Tendrás una inmersión lingüística total durante 2 días. Un total de 24 horas hablando con angloparlantes de todo el mundo.
¡Wow! ¡Qué interesante!
Ganarás confianza y soltura a la hora de comunicarte en inglés. Mejorarás tu comprensión auditiva y tus habilidades conversacionales en una situación de comunicación real en inglés. Ven a Weekend Town y te sorprenderás con todo lo que puede avanzar tu inglés en un fin de semana. Weekend Town de Vaughan. Un fin de semana de inmersión en inglés. All right, amigos, Weekend Town and all our other amazing courses. And you can find out what's hot, que está de moda. You can find out where the deals are by going over to grupovon.com/cursos destacados. All right, let's take a look. We've got a few people figuring out today's double trouble. So it wasn't too hard. It wasn't too bad there. All right. No estés enojado. Don't be angry. Now, that's one way to say it. Don't be mad. Remember, we looked at that word before. I said, I'm mad. Eso puede ser loco, enfadado. And then I taught you there's a method to my madness. Well, no estés enojado is don't be cross. Another way to say it is cross. I know you know the word from cross, like the sign of the cross. You know, you're a Catholic country. You should know the cross, la cruz, right? So don't be cross. Now, cuidado, cara o cruz. How do we say that one? Heads or tails? O sea, esa ya no es cruz para nosotros. So don't be cross. No estés enojado. Y no te preocupes por algo hasta que pase. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it or when we come to it. You can say either verb there. So don't be cross. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. It makes sense, doesn't it? Cruzaremos ese puente en cuanto lleguemos a ello. No lo vamos a cruzar ahora. It means let's not deal with that yet. We have other things to deal with it. No nos adelantemos en los pensamientos, right? It's good to think ahead. It's good to plan. Of course it is. But also, if we overthink, then maybe we get overwhelmed. And that's when somebody says to us, all right, well, Alberto, I don't know yet. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So don't be cross. So there you go. Excellent job. Wow. That was a tough one, too. All right. Also, we've got to look at our spelling bee over here and see what we've got. As I said today, we're looking at some common symbols. And the reason I wanted to look at these was because the peace symbol was first displayed in public for the first time in London. Yes, mate, in London. So I Googled what are the most recognized symbols in the world. And I decided to leave out corporate symbols. So obviously, McDonald's, you say, McDonald's, they beat everybody here, okay? More people know the McDonald's symbol than the hashtag. Bueno, hashtag, ahí está, than the swastika, for example, which was the fourth one. That was the one I was worried about because, again, I didn't put, tell me the 6 best symbols. I said, tell me the 6 most recognized symbols. And again, I wasn't looking for logos here. We've done logos in the past. I know we have. So the first one is ampersand. This one is harmless. Esto si queremos unir algo y no queremos escribir and, well, then we add the ampersand. Black and white, salt and pepper, night and day, apples and oranges, ampersand, el símbolo y, right? And in English. The next one, hashtag. And this is an interesting one because when I was a kid, we had the hashtag. And I think you know what that one is from Twitter, from social media. But when I was a kid, we called it the pound symbol. It was on the phone. I don't remember its purpose. It wasn't a very important one, but it was called the pound sign. And then, well, it turned into a hashtag. Now everybody calls it a hashtag because, well, we don't use traditional landlines. The third one is anarchy, the anarchy symbol, which is the A that looks like Zorro did it. No, Zorro. Instead of a Z, it looks like an A. It's probably also the universal symbol of punk rock, mate. And the fourth one, swastika. Again, sadly, many people recognize this one. And this one, as I said, this one is in line with propaganda. Number 5, yin yang, yin and yang. This is that spirally thing that I'm sure you've all seen. I remember when I was in college, man, this was such a popular symbol. We wanted to go back to the 60s in my day. So everybody had their peace signs, their yin yangs, their Birkenstocks. Birkenstocks are those sandals, those hippie sandals. Busca Birkenstock y dirás, ajá, es la marca. And the last one, infinity. And that's like a sideways figure 8, ¿no? Es una 8 que está de lado. So excellent job, amigos. All right, we are going to the movies. Name that movie. All right, amigos, it's Name That Movie. Here is your synopsis. Big city lawyer Hank Palmer returns to his childhood home where his father, the town's judge, is suspected of murder. Hank sets out to discover the truth. Along the way, he reconnects with his estranged family. All right, let's take it piece by piece here. Big city lawyer. So a big city lawyer, un abogado importante de ciudad, no de pueblo, right? A big city lawyer, Hank Palmer, returns to his childhood home, su casa de la infancia, where his father, the town's judge, el juez del pueblo, is suspected of murder. Hank sets out to discover the truth. Emprende, ¿no? Su cruzada. He sets out to discover the truth. And along the way, he reconnects with his estranged family. And estranged means that they don't talk to each other, right? They don't have any relationship. It's a really good Guns N' Roses song if you don't know it. And the movie is called The Judge. The cover looks good, but I don't want to judge a book by its cover. Or a movie, I should say. No juzgar por las apariencias. Okay. All right. Well, this movie stars Robert Downey Jr., Robert Duvall as well. Excellent actors there. We were just talking about Iron Man, weren't we? Well, he earned a lot of money in that movie, didn't he? And let's be honest. I don't know who your favorite superhero is, but the best actor as a superhero is definitely Robert Downey Jr. I mean, he made people interested in the genre, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, his character, Iron Man. So this movie is called The Judge, and Hank says, "Why'd you pull me out of Boy Scouts? ¿Por qué me sacaste de los Boy Scouts?" And the judge says, "As punishment for blowing up the McGraw's mailbox with M80s. Esto era castigo por explotar el buzón de los McGraw con tus M80s, which are these little firecrackers." And Hank says, "I was 13. That? You remember that?" And judge says, "Oh, old enough to know better. Pues tenías edad ya para saber que no se hace eso." And Hank says, "You didn't come to my high school graduation or college. Why? No viniste a mi graduación. Why?" And he cuts him off and he goes, "Oh, boo fucking who? Boo hoo es llórame un río, no? Boo hoo. And boo fucking who? Pues mira cuánto le importa." He goes, "Why? Jail time, truancy. I don't get to reward anything. None of your shit." Que no había razones. Estabas en prisión, en la cárcel, ibas tarde, no ibas al cole, truancy. And he goes, "I graduated from law school, for Christ's sake. Yo terminé derecho, por el amor de Dios." And the judge says, "As opposed to what? Dropping out? Abandonando?" And Hank says, "Fuck you." And the judge says, "Let me tell you something, okay? I put a roof over your head." Esa frase lo vimos antes. "Money in your pocket, clothes on your back, food in your mouth. Who paid for that college education? I never showed up to kiss your ass. But your mother, lamerte el culo, to kiss your ass. But your mother, she's a housewife. Why couldn't you swallow your goddamn pride and just come home to her? You tell me why." And, well, obviously, it seems like his dad and him don't have the ideal relationship. All right, folks. Well, there you go. That's today's movie. It's called The Judge. And now it's time for famous birthday trivia.
Famous birthdays for you. Famous birthdays for me. Famous birthdays for everyone on the show with no name. Oi, oi, oi. Birthdays for him. Famous birthdays for her. Famous birthdays for everyone on the show with no name.
All right, amigos, welcome to our famous birthday section. Our first famous birthday is a guy who was born today in 1913. That's right, in 1913. His real name, I'll tell you his real name because you won't know it. I don't even think I knew it. Not off the top of my head. McKinley Morganfield. And with many blues artists, he was supposedly born today in 1913. I say supposedly because they all, they lack birth records, birth certificates. And he passed in April, at the end of April, 1983. He was known professionally as Aguas Barrosas, con mucho barro. I think they would call him one of the pioneers. He was the father of the modern Chicago blues. And he's, man, just amazing. He grew up near Clarksdale, Mississippi. Now, I was lucky enough to spend some time in Clarksdale, Mississippi. That's also where Robert Johnson sold his soul to the devil. So this guy, and the Rolling Stones, if you listen to the FYI episode on the Rolling Stones, they wouldn't exist without this guy. Well, I'm not just saying that they looked up to him, que le admiraron, but they got the name of their band from one of this guy's songs. So the Rolling Stones, well, that comes from an expression, a Rolling Stone gathers no moss. And this guy was definitely the inspiration. If you haven't heard that story, it's a lovely story. Number 2, this guy is Iron Man. And no, I'm not talking about Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath. I'm talking about the superhero from the 1980s. And this is a guy who you thought his career was done. You know, he seemed like he was dried up. And I would go as far as saying this guy is the comeback king. I love him. And last but not least, this guy, well, his last name is Cruz. And we looked at the word Cruz today. We looked at we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And we also looked at being cross as being mean. But I don't think this guy is cross at all. He's actually hysterical. He's one of the funniest guys I have ever seen or heard in my life. I'd love to see him live. And he's a stand-up comedian, an actor, a writer, director. I first saw him, like many people, in Mr. Show. And then he got really, really famous on Arrested Development, which is an amazing, twisted series. And if you don't know who he is, you've got to check him out. He is hysterical. Today's 3 famous birthdays. Number 1, Muddy Waters. Muddy Waters, McKinley Morganfield, but everybody knows him as Muddy Waters. Number 2, Robert Downey Jr. That's right, Robert Downey Jr., who kind of disappeared. He's had all kinds of problems with drugs and alcohol, and it seems like he has beaten them, or at least he's able to have a successful career. So good for him. Me alegro por él. And last but not least, David Cross, who is the exact opposite of Cross. Well, he can play cross characters, but he seems like one of the funniest dudes in the world. Like I said, when he walks in the room, or he walks into the scene, you start laughing before he even opens his mouth. I'm talking about David Cross. And this is David Cross in our Say What soundbite today. This is David Cross in a stand-up routine of his. And he says, we are dumb. Somos tontos. He says, we are a dumb species. Una especie tonta. We're so dumb. I mean, tan tontos, mankind, el hombre, la humanidad, didn't even invent the sandwich until the 18th century. I mean, that's how dumb we are as a species. Tan tontos somos como una especie. Literally, thousands of years, and people going, trying to shove meat in their mouth and saying, there's got to be a better way. Tiene que haber una forma más fácil, otra forma de hacerlo. So here he is, birthday boy David Cross.
We are dumb. We're a dumb species. We're so dumb. Mankind didn't even invent the sandwich until the 18th century. That's how dumb we are as a species. I mean, literally thousands of years of people going, there's got to be a better way, you know.
Hi, hello, Alberto. I think the song is. No? Sorry, bye.
Name that lyric, name that lyric, name that lyric, name that lyric only on the show with no name, the show with no name, the show with no name. It's name that lyric only on the show with no name, the show with no name, the show with no name. It's name that lyric only on the show with no name.
That's right, folks. It's Name That Lyric only on the show with no name. And since you guys have been kicking butt nonstop, I have decided to make the recently released propaganda episode of FYI available to all of you show with no namers as a thank you for being heaven sent, mandados desde el cielo. I know you'll find it interesting, and I know you'll learn all of the interesting idiomatic expressions therein. Let's kick off this little part over here with a song that I think is probably the blues song. Like, if you had to define what is the quintessential blues song, well, you could say anything by Muddy Waters, really. But Mannish Boy, I mean, that is, I guarantee when we play it right now, you're all going to recognize that famous riff. Dun, 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 dun. Everything going to be all right this morning. The greatest man alive. I don't even remember the lyrics, but one of the cool things about Muddy Waters and all of these blues songs is that they were tributes in the end. So someone would take it, Robert Johnson would take a song from somebody, and it wasn't called copyright infringement. It was called paying tribute, and they would change the lyrics. So a lot of blues songs have many sets of lyrics. So this one is called Mannish Boy. If you'd like to look up the lyrics, it's called Mannish Boy by the one and only Muddy Waters. And we'll be right back with the fourth and final part of today's show. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Come on.
Young boy.
Hello, and welcome to the bonus episode of today's FYI on propaganda. And something I forgot to mention in the first part, it's not propaganda. It's not an O in English, it's propaganda. Well, just bear it in mind. If you're saying it in Spanish, it's propaganda. If you're saying it in English, it's propaganda. Hey, I know what you're thinking. It's just a little nuance, but it's those nuances that make the difference. Just look at a Monet painting. Those little details, those little strokes are what made the difference. So before we get started, is propaganda a bad thing? in different areas. We looked at it with the church, where its name came from. And I guess if you're spreading a message of love and caring, as the church says they do, well, is that a bad thing? Is that a bad message to propagate, to spread? I don't know. You have to make that judgment. But either way, I think not giving people all the information and just giving them one side of the story or leaving out facts, well, it makes it really hard to make an informed decision. So I would prefer to get all the facts. Sadly, we don't. And we are often manipulated by companies, by politicians, by church figures, even celebrities, anybody we put on a pedestal. So I guess the answer is it depends on what side of the propaganda you're on. If you're the one being brainwashed or manipulated, well, nobody wants to be brainwashed or manipulated. But if you're the one doing the brainwashing and manipulating, well, then it's a great thing for you. Look at Edward Bernays. He made millions and made a name for himself. And I know what you're thinking. I keep talking about Edward Bernays. We're getting to him, trust me. But there was a literary debate between him and a guy named Everett Dean Martin. And Everett Dean Martin argued that, and I quote, "Propaganda is making puppets of us. We are moved by hidden strings, which the propagandist manipulates." So according to Everett Dean Martin, it's a bad thing. In the 1920s and 30s, propaganda was sometimes described as an all-powerful entity. Bernays wrote a book called, you guessed it, Propaganda. And in that book, he defends the other side. He's saying propaganda's necessary. This is what he says. "The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of." I don't know if it's positive or negative, but it is powerful. You can start wars with propaganda. And let's take a look at some propaganda in history. There was tons of propaganda in the Vietnam War. When I was growing up, I remember the Cold War. And in school, I remember us always saying, the Russians are the bad guys. The Russians are going to try and come here and take away our freedom. And it was everywhere, even in the movies. And we're going to talk about movies, but just think of Rocky IV. Who was the bad guy in Rocky IV? The Russian. That was right at the height of the Cold War. That was not an accident. And in World War II, the Nazis, they were the kings of propaganda. But as we saw, it's something that's been around since the dawn of civilization. And we're going to talk about Goebbels right now, the guy who really ran the Nazi propaganda machine. But first, I wanted to send a special shout out to those posters that everybody loves, but are propaganda nonetheless. The "I Want You" poster with Uncle Sam. That was part of a propaganda campaign to recruit young people to the army. And what about Rosie the Riveter? She's that famous poster of that woman making a muscle. And that was a campaign during World War II, which encouraged the women to get into factories and help the war effort on the home front. And I forgot to mention The Art of War, the famous book. It has elements of propaganda in it as well. Elements such as psychological warfare. The fact that you don't only have to beat the soldiers with guns and out there on the field, but you've got to beat them up mentally, psychologically, wear them down. And then there have been not so fun experiments on humankind, such as MK Ultra, which was a mind control program established by intelligence in the United States. We could do a whole episode on MK Ultra. It's not just a Muse song, but we're going to go back to Goebbels right now, because Goebbels is perhaps one of the most infamous propagandists ever, and he was also very effective. But what was his secret? His secret was he learned from the best, or the worst, however you look at it. He learned from Sigmund Freud's nephew. And who is Sigmund Freud's nephew? Edward Bernays. We've been talking about him the whole episode without talking about him. The father of PR, public relations. The guy who lived to be 103 years old. The guy who wrote the book on propaganda. And I mean that literally. His book is called Propaganda. Well, one of his many books. And hey, patrons, I'm going to share the audiobook with you on Patreon. But obviously, he was no stranger to psychology. I mean, his uncle was Sigmund Freud, although they differed on many things. But he knew the power of psychology, the power of suggestion, and how the mind in the right conditions could be easily manipulated. He turned it into a science, and the Nazis took note. One famous story of the Nazis is how they practically gave away radios. They gave them away or sold them dirt cheap on one condition, that you would put it in the window and you would turn the volume up all the way. They didn't have internet back then, so that was how they spread their message. And did it work? Sadly, yes. The world was taken over by a madman who had managed to brainwash a whole nation. And they learned it all from Edward Bernays. In the United States, we have an expression, I don't know if you say it in Spanish, but we say, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. You want to know something? That's BS. It's not more important than any other meals. Yeah, sure, you should eat different things for dinner than you eat for breakfast, but it doesn't make it more important. Well, Bernays not only made this up, but he made it something that Americans say over and over and over. I think I've heard people say that expression 1,000,000 times. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Is it? Well, he convinced the whole nation it was. And he also convinced them that bacon was part of a healthy breakfast, because at that time, Americans were having light breakfasts. But he was hired by a bacon company, and they needed to sell more bacon. So he said, I'm going to make bacon synonymous with breakfast. And he did it. In the United States, bacon and eggs is still synonymous with breakfast. Let's hear from the master himself, Edward Bernays.
Many years ago, our client was the Beachy Net Packing Company. We made a research and found out that the American public ate very light breakfasts of coffee, maybe a roll, and orange juice. We went to our physician, found that a heavy breakfast was sounder from the standpoint of health than a light breakfast, because the body loses energy during the night and needs it during the day. We asked the physician, after telling him why we were talking to him, would he be willing, at no cost, to write to 5,000 physicians and ask them whether their judgment was the same as his, confirmed his judgment. He said he would be glad to do it. We carried out a letter to 5,000 physicians. Obviously, all of them concurred that a heavy breakfast was better for the health of the American people than a light breakfast. That was publicized in the newspapers. Newspapers throughout the country had headlines saying 4,500 physicians urge heavy breakfast in order to improve health of American people. Many of them stated that bacon and eggs should be embodied with the breakfast, and as a result, the sale of bacon went up. And I still have a letter from Bartlett Arkell, president of Beachy Nut Packing Company, telling me so.
Quite interesting. And he was still doing interviews into his old age. You can find a lot of them over on YouTube. And everybody started to take note, especially the US government. They said, wait, this guy's pretty powerful. And there was something that was called the Committee on Public Information. It was started by the government during World War I, and it existed from 1917 to 1919. And Bernays was on the board. And this agency was created to influence public opinion to support the U.S. in World War I, and also, obviously, on the home front. And in the 26 months that the CPI was in service, they used every medium available to create enthusiasm for the war effort. And this is a very notable example of propaganda in the United States. So we're seeing the use for commercial purposes, we're seeing in wartime, but also they realized that it was something that could be used during peacetime as well. And that politicians, if they had somebody helping them out, a consultant who knew a little bit about propaganda and public relations, well, then they could win any campaign. And eventually he was hired by President Calvin Coolidge. And you heard what I said, president, he won. Another extremely controversial thing that Edward Bernays did was with the bananas in Guatemala. And basically, there was an American banana company there. Now it's called the Chiquita Banana Company. And the leader at the time said something like, you guys are out of here, or you have to pay more money. He said something that this company didn't like, and it was going to infringe on their business. It was going to take away from their bottom line, from their profits. So they decided to use propaganda to stage and organize a coup d'etat. This was in 1954, and they overthrew the government. And at first, they said it was communist, it was this, that, the other, again, the name calling. But really, it was because it was a conflict of interest for their business. And so they got really organized and created a campaign. And in 1954, they overthrew the government there. And to this day, the Chiquita Banana Company is making money hand over fist. So we can even overthrow governments with propaganda. Another interesting example with Edward Bernays is when he got women to smoke. He made it fashionable for women to smoke. He even went as far as calling cigarettes torches of freedom. Because if you put everything into context, during that time there was suffrage. Women were fighting for the right to vote. And the idea behind the campaign was, don't let any man hold you down. You can smoke just like a man. Light up those freedom torches. And what he did was he got some very attractive women. Now they would be called influencers. Back then they were called trendsetters. And he had them light up during the Easter parade in New York City. No, not in Kansas. No, not in West Virginia. In New York City, where the world was watching. There was press there, and before you knew it, people worldwide saw these women lighting up on TV in a parade, and it was liberating, or at least they were made to feel that way. I'm smoking as an act of rebellion, because I can, because you can't stop me. I've got a little audio clip that further explains it. Let's give it a listen.
This episode is about Freud's American nephew, Edward Bernays. Bernays is almost completely unknown today, but his influence on the 20th century was nearly as great as his uncle's. Because Bernays was the first person to take Freud's ideas about human beings and use them to manipulate the masses. He showed American corporations for the first time how they could make people want things they didn't need by linking mass-produced goods to their unconscious desires. Out of this would come a new political idea of how to control the masses. By satisfying people's inner selfish desires, one made them happy and thus docile. It was the start of the all-consuming self, which has come to dominate our world today. Bernays set out to experiment with the minds of the popular classes. His most dramatic experiment was to persuade women to smoke. At that time, there was a taboo against women smoking, and one of his early clients, George Hill, the president of the American Tobacco Corporation, asked Bernays to find a way of breaking it. A. Brill was one of the first psychoanalysts in America, and for a large fee, he told Bernays that cigarettes were a symbol of the penis and of male sexual power. He told Bernays that if he could find a way to connect cigarettes with the idea of challenging male power, then women would smoke, because then they would have their own penises. Every year, New York held an Easter Day parade to which thousands came, and Bernays decided to stage an event there. He persuaded a group of rich debutantes to hide cigarettes under their clothes. Then they should join the parade, and at a given signal from him, they were to light up the cigarettes dramatically. Bernays then informed the press that he had heard that a group of suffragettes were preparing to protest by lighting up what they called torches of freedom.
Symbol, women, young women, debutantes, smoking a cigarette in public with a phrase that means anybody who believes in this kind of equality pretty much has to support them in the ensuing debate about this, because torches of freedom.
Every metaphor and analogy has to come from somewhere. Perhaps they are rare pearls that drop from the pens of an elite corps of bards and scribblers and then are hoarded by a grateful populace. But given their prevalence in language, it seems more likely that they are the natural products of the way everyone's mind works.
And so the next day, this was not just in all of the New York papers, it was across the United States and around the world. And from that point forward, the sale of cigarettes to women began to rise. He had made them socially acceptable.
That's fascinating. And there are full documentaries just on that story. But another thing Bernays believed in was creating a want or a need for that product. And he did that by targeting on people's desires, playing on their feelings, using the right words and the right music and the right symbols. Just think of how the right song can make us cry. Or if you watch a trailer in a movie, it's usually exciting. There's a reason for it, because it makes us feel a certain way. And this was turned into a science by Edward Bernays. Let's take a look at some of it in pop culture. We've all heard Orwellian. Well, George Orwell, his novel 1984. And this was about a dystopian, totalitarian future. Some say the surveillance we're experiencing today is very Orwellian. There's also a movie called Wag the Dog. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Well, first, the expression to wag the dog means to distract attention away from a political scandal, usually through military action. So it's saying, hey, don't look at what just happened. Look over here. The movie is awesome. It stars Dustin Hoffman and Robert De Niro. What a cast and what a movie. It's called Wag the Dog. It's a perfect example of how spinning a story and how manipulation and propaganda are used. We already mentioned the Russian in Rocky IV, but I remember every movie in the 80s, the Russians were the bad guys. And that was not an accident. They needed to instill that in our minds. Russia bad. Well, unless you were watching a Spielberg movie, in that case, all the bad guys were the Nazis. Some movies that are famous, or shall I say infamous for propaganda, are Triumph of the Will. This movie was literally an ad for the Third Reich. It made Hitler look like a golden boy, a leader of leaders. Another very controversial one is Birth of a Nation. It came out in the United States in 1915. And even though it was groundbreaking, the cinematography, it used some angles that had never been used before. It had many racist themes, and it portrayed African-American slaves as violent heathens, animals. And the KKK, well, they were heroes. They would ride in on their horses to save the day. And it's a movie that continues to polarize viewers. But some say that the KKK grew in size because of this movie, tremendously. Another one which pokes fun at the subject is The Great Dictator, obviously with the one and only Charlie Chaplin, and that was from 1940. Speaking of, if you haven't listened to the episode on dictators yet, give it a listen. All right, now we're going to play a game just to show you how powerful some slogans can be and how they stick with us forever. I'm going to tell you the slogan, and you tell me the brand. The first one's really easy. Da-da-da-da-da. See, I didn't even say the slogan. I just gave you the music. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Did you say McDonald's? Great job. But somebody should teach McDonald's a little grammar. You can't use non-action verbs in the gerund. I'm knowing her. I'm loving it. And so on and so forth. But they used poetic license, and it worked. What about this one? I'll sing this one to you. The best a man can get. Did you say Gillette? You got it. All right, here's another one. It melts in your mouth, not in your hand. Did you say M&M's? You got it. Here's another one. Impossible is nothing. Adidas. Nice job. All right, let's see if you know this one. I think this one's really American. Snap, crackle, pop. Did you say Rice Krispies? Well, the 3 characters were called Snap, Crackle, Pop, and supposedly those are the noises it makes in your mouth. All right, this next one is really easy. Just do it. You got it. Nike, or Nike, as you say. A good slogan is timeless, it seems. Let's take a look at some idioms and expressions. We already looked at the word misleading. When something is misleading, it lies to you, but it's because it doesn't tell you the whole truth. It reminds me of the word to lead somebody on, to make somebody believe something that isn't. Are you leading me on? Are you misleading me? Remember, we're always playing with words, and you conjugate it the same way as the word lead. He misled me. Lead, led, led. Mislead, misled, misled. We also mentioned the word mindset before, your attitude. We talked a lot about the mind on today's shows. Reminds me of the expression mind over matter. Mind over matter means you can convince your mind of anything in the right circumstances, even if something is tangible and right in front of you. And I guess that's where the power of propaganda comes from. People exploiting that. We already talked about the word spin before. We said you can spin a story or to put a spin on it, and that means to put your own opinion into it, your own take. Another expression that has to do with lying is to pull the wool over someone's eyes, to try not to let them see the truth. It's a little different from fibbing or kidding. These are little lies kids tell. Are you fibbing? I use that one with my daughter a lot. Then we've got white lies. I think you say mentira piadosa. It's just a little lie. It's similar to bending the truth. Did you just lie to me? Well, no, I was bending the truth. That means I wasn't exactly telling you everything. A little bit different than lying through your teeth. That's something a compulsive liar does. We looked at the word BS before. If you don't believe something somebody's telling you, you know what you tell them? Bullshit. BS. I don't buy it. I prefer that you come clean or that you fess up. Esto es confesar. Or also to be straight up with me. Franco, sincero. And we'll wrap up the episode talking about if this is still relevant today. I think I've highlighted it in many cases on social media, with memes. I think we are constantly under psychological warfare. That's why you have to be careful what you let into your mind. But some recent examples of propaganda. The ghost of Kiev. Remember that? When the Ukrainian war started. It was fake. It was phony. It never happened. And you have Twitter memes like that all the time. Twitter's constantly killing people or starting wars. Do you know how many times I've seen World War III trending? And I think propaganda is alive and well. This is why I don't subscribe to any mainstream media. I don't want to watch CNN or Fox. I want just the facts. And that's what we give you here on FYI. I really hope you enjoyed this week's episodes, and I hope you'll join us on next week's episodes of FYI.